Hello, and welcome to the Modern Romantic Podcast, where we celebrate and inspire romanticism through passionate people doing incredible things. Hi, I'm extolling the virtues of going outside and looking at the beautiful sky every now and then, Trey. And and I'm joined by somebody who loves to frolic through a field of sunflowers specifically, Emily. Hi, Emily.
That's very accurate. Many times they're taller than me, and that's okay.
How have you been, Emily?
I'm looking forward to spring. That's where I'm at. That is my current status. Spring must come right now.
Yes. I can tell you down here in the Carolinas, spring has definitely come in the form of pollen, because everything is
Mm,
yellow. But it means that good things are on the way.
yes, yes. Soon there will be uh, garden tomatoes and
Yes.
figs, because you can grow figs down there.
Hmm.
Lots of things like that. I miss that,
Yeah. A good ripe fig.
especially if it's first thing in the morning, right off the tree. It has a little bit of
Yes.
that brown sugar flavor in it. So good.
Oh my God, that's so good. That is okay. Now I'm hungry. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here for you.
Well, I am excited to get to talk to our guest today.
Yes,
So, would you do us the honor of introducing our fantastic guest?
of course I would. Today we have J-pop artist Olivia Millin with us. She's known for her newest album called Start Again, which is really exciting. And we're here to talk to her about that and many other things that she does creatively. So welcome to the show, Olivia.
Thank you for having me so much, and I'm so excited.
So are we. Thank you for being
Yeah.
here.
No, I listening to your music, we'll definitely get into that a little bit later, but I am so curious, what got you into music?
Yeah, so I've actually been into music ever since I was pretty much born. um, I've been an avid choir singer since the age of like 3. So originally it was I'm Greek. I've been raised in a Greek Orthodox church, and it was my nuna who basically decided to, I guess, inspire me to put me up into the choir. And ever since then, I loved it. And um, at the time, I was the only younger kid in the choir. So it was sort of like a little solo for me ish. I would have my own songs that they would have me sing for church.
Hmm.
And I always loved that. And I figured out that as I begin to sing more, that I liked that a lot more than group singing. Um, but I was for a while interested in the group dynamic, but I overall just decided to go solo. But ever since I was like 3, I'd say I've been in touch with music.
That's awesome. I love that it's a family member that's like giving you that intro into choir. I'm sorry she decided that you were there, but it sounds like it was an overall a good decision.
Yeah, it was a good decision for sure. I mean, it's the sort of choir that like you usually have to audition for.
Mhm.
So it's not really like they just let anyone in sort of thing, but it was I mean, I did have to audition. But it was overall her influence that did influence me to end up going there.
She must have seen something in you that went, okay, this is going to be a good fit. So, or at least
I hope so. Well, I was also born with perfect pitch, and my mom did convey that, so that may have helped just a little bit.
like
How dare
no
you?
no
Honestly,
pitch work to be done here.
I'm so jealous of people with perfect pitch. Like, my God.
It's a blessing and a curse.
I
Uh,
want to know why it's a curse.
Yeah, so for me specifically, it's somewhat of a curse because I was born with genetic perfect pitch, meaning that I have a little bit of a sensitive ear. So if something's too sharp, too flat, I kind of get I guess I don't get ticked off by it. That's not the right word, but I guess the sort of wording to use for that is just like it puts a little notice in my brain. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that's sharp, that's flat, and that's like for everything. But I can still enjoy music and stuff. And also, whenever I'm just like sitting down in a room, I'll just like hear the air conditioning and be like, oh, that's like an F sharp. And I'll just like start, I guess, like writing chords in my head to go with the air conditioning. It's really annoying.
See, all right, I don't have perfect pitch, but I will harmonize with different things that are just kind of vibrating. There used to be those
Yeah.
big incandescent bulbs in the music department at my
Mm.
college, and I would be sitting there listening, and we even had a whole conversation where the ear training person stopped for a second. He goes, "Is that the incandescent lighting?" And he starts plucking it on the piano. He goes, "Oh my gosh! All right, everybody harmonize. You take B flat, you take D, you take F, and go." And we would just sit there and harmonize with the most random objects.
Hmm.
Yeah, that man sounds like he had perfect pitch.
It was great.
Yeah. So, that's definitely one of the things, and then I'd say it's for me, I consider it more of a blessing than a curse, mainly because the blessing is that I get to be a walking piano wherever I go, and that's sort of fun, so
I guess making you because it makes you sensitive to it. That's something that, like, I took piano, for instance, and it's something where the piano teacher always said before the rehearsal, like, oh, if you hit a wrong note, don't worry, just keep going. Most people don't notice that anyway. But like, you're the person that would notice. So
yes.
even if the rest of us maybe wouldn't, I would because I'm playing it and I know I hit the wrong note. But and sometimes people would pick that up, but generally, but like perfect pitch also with singing, like you've like, can you even watch a show like The Voice or
I actually well, here's the thing with The Voice and America's Got Talent, I don't really enjoy watching those because I actually, I tried out for America's Got Talent a while
oh yeah,
ago,
Oh,
and I got a little bit of an inside scoop on how they work.
oh
And turns out most of the time they hire people or they pick up people who are just going to be the most interesting to watch. They may not be the most talented, they may not be the least talented, but that's why you've seen like a lot of I imagine you've seen like those bad quote unquote bad auditions on
sure,
YouTube and stuff,
mhm.
right? They don't necessarily pick them or to air them because they're, talented or not talented. It's because it makes good TV.
yeah,
And that's I guess I never really just enjoyed that because I want to see someone for their real talent and not really someone, for I don't really want to see the whole marketing scheme around it, I guess. I
it's
just
not
wanna
as
see someone's
real.
raw
Yeah,
talent. It's not as real, exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
So what we're
right.
advocating for is going to be a TV show where we see all the auditions, the good, the bad, the everybody.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. All 3 million auditions or whatever.
It'll be like a 2 month long process. It's fine. It's fine. So after singing with a choir, you are starting to transition into solo singing. Um, what were some of the things that inspired your solo journey? What were some of the artists that you were listening to, or things that were inspiring to you that uh, I'm losing the question, but things that inspired you to move on in that solo journey?
Yeah, so I guess the thing that majorly helped me, at least with J-pop, the thing that really inspired me to go ahead with J-pop was the fact that when I got to college, I got rejected by almost every a cappella group and every singing group that was there. I got one call back and they ended up rejecting me later on. So, overall, I didn't get any yeses across the board. And for a while, it was sort of dejecting. And then I realized, you know what? Um, if no one wants me, I'm just going to do my own thing. And it turned out to be a lot more than that when I actually got the ball rolling. But originally the reason that I was rejected by most of these places or most of these groups was because they said my voice was too unique. and that I
Hmm.
wouldn't fit in with the group. And I
I see.
thought, you know what? I may as well just use that to my advantage and start a solo career. So that's what I did.
And here you are.
Yes.
You made your own yes.
Hmm.
I suppose I did, yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
cool that we live in a day and age when you can do that too, because we're not completely, it's not like you have to, like the average person now can self start and DIY their way to their own yes in a way that I feel like we never used to be able to before. So, and that's really empowering, and I think that's really great that you decided to take that instead of just kind of folding or going a different direction.
Thank you.
As far as I'm curious with I'm curious with your journey into the Japanese culture and to J-pop specifically. Um, like, are you simultaneously doing music lessons, or are you mostly like self-taught in that department? I'm curious about what your extra music training is like.
Yeah, so I've actually been classically trained with vocals since about the age of, geez, 8 or 10.
Mhm.
I did private lessons with classical, pop, Broadway, a little bit of opera.
Mhm.
Um, Not that much of it. I can't say I'm a Broadway or I'm a opera expert or anything like that. But when it comes to classical and Broadway and pop, I'd say those three are my top strong suits. Oh, and a little bit of rock too. And then as far as dance goes, because I do dance in my shows as well, I do take lessons currently for that. I used to take ballet when I was very young, up till like the age of 10, and I got on point. And then as soon as I got on point, I quit because they were asking me to do like 4 hours a day every day, which was ridiculous for me. I mean, of course, there are people who love that route, and it just wasn't for me. I wanted to do more with music because I just kind of knew my entire life that I really loved music and I wanted to do more with that rather than dance. But I now that I'm in J-pop, I do realize that there is a very large dance aspect of it. So I do have to, or I do get to practice lots of dance and more along the upbeat hip hop, sort of K-pop sort of type of vibe, I guess.
And I'm curious about that because I didn't realize that there was like a specific style of dance associated with that. Can you tell us a little bit more about like the dance aspect that's involved?
Yeah, so actually there's not exactly it depends because I'm sort of in my own genre over here, which is, it's interesting because originally I was with my first single that I released, it was very, very idol culture. Japanese idol culture, which is extremely, singing, dancing, um and are you guys familiar with idol culture at all?
A little
I'm
bit,
not.
not to an extreme degree.
Gotcha. So basically it's very like cutesy, very, I guess, young
Okay.
in both vocal wise, dance wise, and by young I mean like youthful, not
Yeah.
necessarily like simple because the dances can be very, very difficult. But it's the whole style of idol culture is very cutesy, very young, like very youthful, very happy, you know?
Yeah.
But I was originally in that for my first sort of two singles. And then I realized, I'm more interested in going the artist route, which is, I guess, more mature, a little bit more mature, a little bit more focused on just the artist themselves rather than idols are usually in a group.
Mm.
So I wasn't thrilled with that and I really wanted to go solo.
Mhm.
Um so that was another reason I decided to go more into the artist route. Um and I just figured out it just wasn't for me at the time. I figured I sort of evolved through that phase of my life, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. Which, as many artists will change and evolve throughout their music career, and that was just an example of how I changed and evolved through mine. Um, and I guess you could say that when I was involved in that sort of period of my music career, it was very dance heavy. And sorry, it just started pouring over here. And I was like, what is that noise? But yeah. Basically, it's very, very dance heavy, very less involved on the singing, very performance heavy. And I decided that I really wanted to do a mix of both because I was really intrigued by the idol culture, but I also really wanted to do my own thing and sing a lot because I'm really sort of about vocal showcasing rather than I'm not a natural dancer. I really have to try hard at that and practice and hone my skills for that. So when it comes to that, it's not as easy for me. So I really I do want to showcase it. Just my vocals come easier. So I figured, you know what? I do like both. So I may as well do both. And so now for my performances, I do a little bit of singing, a little bit of dancing, some both at once. It's that's why I said it's a little complicated in the regards of dancing and singing because I don't dance to every song, but I do sing to every song.
Right.
I think that of the music that I've been able to listen to from your album, you get a really good taste of the diversity that you're bringing. So I think that that comes through both in the showcase of the tracks, but also the way that you're describing it here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, Honestly, I was listening to Enough earlier, and I
Oh,
was
wow. That's my old music. That was like, I made that in high school.
but I was still really impressed. There was the thing that caught my ear was at the very end of it, and I had been listening to it for I don't know for about 3 minutes in, and then you started going up to that climax note, and I went, "Okay, dang, all right, get it, girl." So
Thank you.
that's very nice. Um, so less a question, more just a statement of I was like, "All right, I'm really impressed."
Thank you.
As far as you getting immersed with Japanese culture, how did that come to pass?
So when it comes to Japanese culture, I've always sort of been in, I guess, not the loop, but I've always sort of been in with Japanese culture, like mentally.
Mhm.
Ever since I was the age of like 7, maybe, I grew up on the music. Definitely the music. That's how I got introduced to the whole thing. I started listening to a lot of Hatsune Miku. Uh, that came primarily from the internet. Um, and I always wanted to learn the language, but when you're such a young age, it's not like you can just ask your parents, "Hey, I want Japanese lessons." They're like, "Okay, it's just a phase." But it kind of stayed with me, and I really sort of grew in love with the culture. And that's, a lot of people think that when I say, "Oh, well, you love the culture, that just means you love anime." And I'm like, okay. um there's a lot more to the culture than just anime and Vocaloid and all of the pop culture things that happen. There's traditional bits, there's the history, and there's everything that comes along with it and how it came to be, and that's what I'm really interested in. um including the more pop culture bits. I mean, there are thousands of like pieces of culture and pieces of, I guess, repertoire in Japanese culture that you can talk about, and it could go on and on and on. But I am not fully versed in anything when it comes to Japanese culture, much less is everyone in the world, right? I mean, it's pretty hard to be well versed when it comes to that. But I'd say I consider myself sort of an expert considering I am a Japanese major. And I did start learning the language in high school. So when it comes to speaking, I would consider myself conversational. I wouldn't consider myself fluent yet because there's just, especially when it comes to vocabulary and kanji, there's so much of it. It's like, even Japanese people say that not everyone knows 100% of kanji. Not everyone can know everything, is what I'm trying to say. But I consider myself pretty well versed.
That's awesome.
I think the same can be said for the US too. Like there we have so many different like microcultures in our, of course our country is a lot bigger, but I mean like you even said idol culture. You know, that's a word we know. We know idol. We don't know the way it was, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know what idol culture was, but you explained it to me. So I think even with English, we don't always know all of it, even though we're
Yeah,
right here and we speak it all the time every day. We're speaking right now. There are
yeah.
definitely things that and it changes with slang and with new words we create. So
Exactly. And it's just it gets to that point where it's like when 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 will anybody know everything? And the answer is never.
never. We're just along for the ride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, as far as like combining, because your music combines both Japanese and English into those songs, when those songs are being written, how do you decide what gets put into Japanese and how what gets put said in English?
I get that a lot. And actually, it really depends on the rhyming actually.
Okay.
um, because sometimes I'll rhyme me with Japanese words that end in E,
Mhm.
or I can stretch out an extra because how the syllables in Japanese work is quite unique. Um, the alphabet is primarily formed of katakana and hiragana. That's excluding kanji because kanji is a whole nother can of worms. But hiragana and katakana are the two alphabets used, and each word, nothing ends on a consonant unless it's N.
Oh,
So everything ends on a vowel. So those vowels can be e, a, e, o, u, like the
okay.
vowels in English.
Yes.
But those make it interesting to rhyme with because it provides a really great variety when it comes to those vowels. When it comes to vowels like if I'm doing ing and stuff like that, it makes it harder to rhyme with that in Japanese. But when I'm doing stuff like a diphthong, that makes it really easy to rhyme with Japanese. So that's sort of where I get the idea of including Japanese in to that particular line. Also, it usually has to flow with the story. And because each of my songs usually has like a general theme or a story, um, and it usually has to flow. And I'd want my ideal vision for my music is for both Japanese people and American people, or any English speaking people, or actually just anyone in general, but my ideal audience would be people who speak both because then they could understand the whole thing. But even if you didn't understand one or the other, I try to make it so that you can understand the whole song.
Yeah, like through context. Um,
Exactly.
but I mean, you also have people that know every single lyric of a BTS song or every single lyric of Blackpink. So it's not like people could not learn those and then understand it completely. Uh,
Exactly. And that actually like really fills my heart when people learn the lyrics in a different language because then it really sort of I guess it just introduces someone's eyes into a different culture and it really makes me happy when someone does that.
That's interesting that you brought up the rhyming thing. I really like that you do that, and it's something that I've noticed that I don't know about music as much as either one of you for that matter because you're both music people. But um I've when you listen to like a television show or something that, or a movie even that's maybe not in English, or the singing portion of it isn't in English, and you have a song that you're listening to where it sounds like they're not rhyming. I've often wondered, is it that I'm not picking up on the rhyme, or is it that some songs in other languages simply don't rhyme? And I'm wondering,
Hmm.
like, maybe you can only speak to Japanese, but I've often wondered about this phenomenon and if it's just me that thinks this, or like, what is this?
I usually pick up on the rhymes, but I think that's because I'm a songwriter.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't know how I would feel, so I can't really answer that question to its fullest extent.
Like Trey in opera, do they not like, of course, opera doesn't always rhyme anyway, does it?
Not all the time it can, but I mean, same thing with musical theater. Not everything is written in nice little like couplets or even a nice stanza of things. So I think it's whatever the writer's vision is or the
Okay.
composer's vision is. If he wants it to rhyme, it can rhyme. If he doesn't, it doesn't.
Especially when it comes to opera and Broadway, sort of those sort of genres are definitely more story oriented. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter if those sort of rhyme. I thought you were talking about originally like mainly songs with other languages.
Well, I
Um,
was. That just came up
Gotcha.
too. I was, yeah. I can't give any like examples right now because I don't know the names of them. I'll just be like, I wonder if, are we the only language that tries to rhyme?
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely do say that Japanese does rhyme.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That makes me happy. I don't know why, but it does.
Next week, Emily will come back and be like, "I was listening to a Norwegian, I don't
Right.
know, true crime podcast, and they were rhyming a song."
I'm gonna go listen to like Viking music and find out if they're rhyming over there.
Great.
I'll report back next week.
The truth, the truth found said, "I think Trey and Olivia should sing together. I think the mix of styles and voices would be super unique and cool." Oh well, thank you, Truth Found.
Thank you.
Um, my people will call your people. Well,
I was gonna say and go.
And go.
uh,
Sadly,
no.
there's like delay.
Yeah.
No, we won't pressure that at all. We've had enough of that on this show.
Yes, we have. Um, so curious because you are a music person. Do you get into karaoke? And if so, what song at karaoke do you throw down at?
Oof, that's a hard question. I am into karaoke. You know, I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga, actually. Lady Gaga is one of my biggest inspirations, and
Mm.
I say this like in every interview because it's so true, and I always have to bring her up because she's amazing. Um, I love her music, and whenever it comes to karaoke, I usually sing one of her songs. If I had to put one on blast right now, probably Poker Face.
I was gonna say
Oh,
that's a
yes.
good karaoke song. She's got a few that are
Yeah.
really good karaoke songs.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Have you ever sang Lady Gaga, Trey?
Not in public, but definitely definitely when I'm getting ready in the morning.
Okay. Next time I'm out there in Charlotte, we'll have to go sing Lady Gaga. That'll be the time Lady Gaga shows up, and we'll be like,
Just walks through the door. I heard someone was singing my music.
as long
Um,
as someone's recording it all, it's fine.
yeah, recording or it didn't happen.
Exactly.
With your songs in particular, you said that there's normally a story that's behind it. Are the stories, are they inspired by real life? Are they stories of just like I don't know, some like imagination? What are those stories, and how does those come to fruition?
Most of the stories that I write are actually inspired by my experiences. However, some of them, especially with my new album coming up, which I will give you a little hint as to what it is about. It's about AI.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm not going to go any further because I do want to keep it a bit of a surprise. I love surprising my fans. Um, and with that, it's definitely harder to write from experience. That required a lot of imagination, and the album is mostly done, so it's on its way. But with Start Again, the album Start Again, it that
Hmm.
was all my experiences.
I was gonna say, "Start Again" was such a great title. I feel like that's something that I want to do in my life over and over again. Just want to redo. Just start again.
Well, technically, it's less of a literal meaning and more of a figurative meaning. I guess like starting again, in regards to mental state,
Hmm.
like sort of resetting the slate and, starting over when it comes to feeling the way you feel around pretty much everything in life. Feeling the way you feel about relationships, about friendship experiences. And well, specifically that's what the album talks about. And it's less of a literal meaning, but I could definitely, I love that my album is all about interpretation. And there is no right or wrong way to interpret the album because every listener has their own mindset. And I think that's beautiful.
It is, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like art in general too. Like that's how that works.
Yeah.
Do you have any like big dreams that you are like on your bucket list that you want to accomplish with music?
Yes. Two things, two major things. One, I definitely want to perform in Tokyo Dome Sunday because I feel like I've seen Tokyo Dome. It looks amazing, and I've always wanted to perform there. Just that's more of a personal goal, but the bigger goal that I have in mind, if I ever really hit it big, I've always wanted to start my own record company, that's audition based and not televised.
Oh,
So that, like America's Got Talent and The Voice has like those sort of things. But I mean, like, I feel like how we were talking about earlier, they're so commercialized. They're not really real. I really want to create something that's real and I want to help people. So if I really made it that big, I do want to help people along my journey.
so you said audition based. Is that not how they already do it, or what do you think?
No, record labels these days, for the most part, basically what they do is they take a look at your follower count and they
Mm,
say, "This is how many followers you have. We're gonna sign you. We're not gonna sign you. This is what your music is like. We're gonna sign you. We're not gonna sign you." So
I
it's not
see.
really audition based. It's more of like we take a look at what you have, and if you have the merit, like if you have the people to back you up, because what they do these days is that they don't build you anymore.
I
Back in
see.
the day, like record companies would build the artists.
Yeah.
These days, the artist has to build themselves. And then, if they're lucky, they'll get signed to a record company.
So if the artist doesn't have the skills, maybe, or the mindset or wherewithal to go out there on social media and make a presence for themselves, they would never get discovered because there's
Exactly.
no real way to do that anymore. Wow, I had no
Exactly.
idea. Okay.
Yeah. It's all about social media these days.
I've seen JoJo talk about that a lot, the singer JoJo.
Yeah.
She was releasing some new music, and her record label had told her, we're not going to promote this. And she got on TikTok and made a whole video saying, my record label won't do this. I have to come promote this myself. So can you please help me out and make sure that this is a number one single? And it
Mm,
wound up working for her, but it was also a really good spotlight to say, like, this is the reality.
yeah.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
I've heard that works with modeling too. Like that's something that some of these designers are doing is picking models that have large followings. And
Yeah.
it was something that when I was in that industry, I kind of hated because I feel like there are really talented people out there that deserve to maybe have a chance at the runway. And the idea that they have a following might spread my brand a little further, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think about this one.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about, so I don't blame you.
I'm curious now that we've opened the door to you owning your own record label. So let's go into the future. Let's say 10 years from now, you've got your own record label. You are hearing people. What are the things that you are looking from artists as they come in to say, Olivia, I want to be signed? What are you looking for?
I'd say uniqueness, because that's really what pulls people to their attraction, right? When it comes to pop music, the industry is so oversaturated. There's so many pop artists. I mean, there's millions, and people put their stuff on Spotify all the time. What makes that person different from everybody else is what I would see and what I would look for.
Good answer. Yeah.
And I love that follower count was not in that response.
Yes.
That's a really good answer. I'm going to ask to kind of drill in a little bit to uniqueness. And what are some of those identifiers of something that is unique?
I'd say definitely the sound of someone's voice, their style, both their outward appearance and their music. Because when it comes to someone's musical style, what they write about, how they write about it, that really makes a huge difference in my opinion. So like, for example, if you want to know, like, I'd say like maybe someone writes about a love story, right? I'd say maybe a unique take of it would be writing from the opposite person's perspective. And saying like, well, maybe playing devil's advocate in writing a song about that, not giving all you future songwriters ideas out there.
I do like that perspective, and that makes sense. So flipping the script a little bit to you are presenting yourself to a future listener. What are the things that you would say about your music that makes you unique?
So one thing is, I definitely did mention earlier that I'd say my style is a mix of both idol and artist style, with the dancing and the sort of outward appearance wise, like the cutesy aesthetic, and then the Western sounding backing tracks and harmonies. But I would say that also I've been, as I told you earlier, I have been told that my voice is unique, and I have had vocal coaches that sort of try to quote unquote normalize my voice. And for that reason, I chose to do the opposite, because why would I want to be normal and stick in when I can do my own thing and be myself? You know what I mean? I don't understand. I'm actually writing a song about that. That's going to be on my new album. But when it comes to uniqueness, it's a lot more than just, I love your comment, Archer. Yes, be normal. Why be normal? I love that. Yes, why be normal? But when it comes to uniqueness, it's a spectrum. It's not just, oh, this person is weird. Usually the word weird is a compliment, in my opinion. Because like Archer says, why be normal?
Right.
But when growing up, I got heavily bullied, and I was always a weird kid. But now that I'm looking back on it, I sort of see it as a compliment, because that means that I'm special and I have my own quirks about me. When you're normal, you just sort of blend in and everybody's the same. Why would you want that? You know what I mean? But also, like, I understand that there are both cultures, like Japanese culture, and many communities who consider that being collective and, I guess, homogeneous in terms of not sticking out. Um, and I still do respect that. I also agree that while you can both be that, you can also stick out in your own ways.
Well, Lady Gaga isn't Lady Gaga because she blended in.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And something else you said reminded me of Lindsey Sterling and Piers Morgan. Do you know about this?
I
Lindsey
don't think I
Sterling
do.
was on, it wasn't American Idol. What was Piers Morgan on? X Factor or something? I don't remember
X
the show.
Factor.
Yeah. So Lindsey Sterling goes, she's a violinist and she goes on and her thing is she dances while she plays. And he
Mm.
roasted her on the show, like some really brutal words about how she should not be dancing while she's playing the violin because it created too many mistakes. And her performance was not perfect. However, this is a girl who already knew that she could do it. She just didn't do it well on stage that night. So she basically said, respectfully, I think you're wrong. And then she went on to create her own. She's done multiple albums, like I don't know, a dozen albums now or something.
Mhm.
She's toured. She has been back on American Idol or X Factor or whatever it was to perform as a guest. Piers Morgan apologized to her publicly. Like all of these things came full circle because she went on her own and she made it herself anyway. And she continues to dance and play the violin after being told on a show in front of everyone, literally, because this is on international television, that she shouldn't be doing such a thing. And so I think you're absolutely right. And that's the way to do it. Why be normal?
Yeah. we seem to be circling around that statement.
Yeah. Why be normal?
Why be normal?
Because no one else was dancing around with a violin, but here she is. She made it work.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about, right, Trey?
Yes. Yes, I love Lindsay Stormy. Oh, it's
okay.
Trey. Sorry.
Either one of you. Yeah, sorry.
No, I have no idea who you're talking. Yes, of course I know who you're talking about.
I remember when she came to Winthrop University and tickets were like $20, and I, for some reason, didn't go.
Oh no.
It was back when she was like really brand
opportunity.
new. I did get on Pentatonics when the tickets were $22, though. It was like their first tour.
Wow, lucky.
That was really cool because it was like this venue. It was at the Fillmore in Charlotte, and they don't have chairs. It's all standing, and you have these railings that like designate like which level you're in, like how far back row wise you would be standing, but you're all standing, and nobody paid attention to that. So we're like front row. Because what are you gonna do? They're like, this isn't your seat. Like there are no seats.
Exactly right.
Everyone just sort of crowded closer and closer and closer, and yeah, it was a great show.
I remember doing that I remember doing that for Neon Trees. I got tickets, I don't know, for like $20, I think.
Nice.
And then they were like, do you want to stand here or do you want to go upstairs? I said, there's an upstairs. They go, yeah, do you want to sit in this big like leather seat upstairs? Yes, I would love to. Have drinks delivered to my chair. Yes. Okay, anyway, great experience. With J-pop, I'm gonna admit that I am not exactly super knowledgeable about it as like a general genre of music. So for me and for some of our audience members, can you describe like harmonically when they go to listen to your music or J-pop in general, what are some of the characteristics that they can expect to hear?
Well, my music is slightly different than traditional J-pop. I'd say traditional J-pop includes lots of rock style backing tracks. So guitar, electric guitar, upbeat drums, sort of. Have you ever heard an anime opening? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's the sort of vibe that I'm talking about.
Okay.
But when it comes to my music, I'd say my music is a little more Western when it comes to the backing tracks and the harmonies, because in traditional J-pop there isn't a lot of harmony. They rely heavily on the singular lead voice. which is also a beautiful choice. But personally, I like my harmonies. um, so I put a lot of those in there and I make them very loud because whenever I'm in the car, I love to like I don't when you like sing along to your favorite song and stuff, I don't just sing along with the melody. I harmonize to songs. So I love to one of the things I do with perfect pitch is I like to find the harmony that isn't there and harmonize with it. So it's more fun when there's more harmonies for me. But
That sounds like a challenge.
exactly. But it's fun for me.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure it is for a lot of other people as well. I've met a couple people who also do that. But when it comes to I guess my music versus J-pop music, like traditional J-pop music. J-pop music has been there's a lot of variety of J-pop, right? There's like Hatsune Miku type music where it's like fast and loud and very, happy, and there's also, I mean, there's a million different types of producers. I'm just generalizing when it comes to Hatsune Miku in general. But it can also be, ballad like, sad. With one thing I love, my favorite J-pop artist is Yoasobi because I love how she mixes those melancholic lyrics with like really really happy beats like Yoru ni kakeru or Racing Through the Night. I imagine you've heard that song. It's about, a person dealing with severe mental health issues, but it sounds so happy and so joyous for just when you're not understanding anything that's happening, when you don't really delve into the lyrics. And when I didn't know Japanese, I would always think like, oh, this must be such a happy song. I would listen to this like after a good day. And then when I learned Japanese, I would listen to the lyrics and work on translating them with my teacher at the time. And I remember I had this moment of like, whoa, that's deep. So there's the J-pop. There's a lot of variety in J-pop. I can't describe a single, I can't describe J-pop in a single word or in a single sentence even, because there's just so much variety.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really great answer. So they can expect to hear a lot of different things.
Yes.
Good.
I think some good homework from this episode would be to go and experience some of those different genres of J-pop and see what's out there and see if something clicks with you. Not that lately I've been getting into giving homework to the audience, which sounds really boring and terrible. But so far, I think it's all been fun.
It's the fun kind.
It's the fun kind.
You get new experiences from it.
Exactly.
I think so, yeah. That's the
sounds like a fun idea.
The 10-page paper we also require once you go do this homework, that's also on this.
You can submit it by emailing it to Trey is now your professor at the Modern. I'm just kidding. That email doesn't exist. Don't send it there. It won't go anywhere. When you get feedback from your fans and audience, what is some of the feedback you love to hear?
I love to hear that I'm making an impact, that I'm inspiring people. It's one thing. I mean, obviously, I love to hear like, "Oh, your music's so good. I love your music." But it's another thing to hear like, "Oh, I listen to your music after a hard day and it makes me feel better." When it comes to helping people, that's a huge thing with me.
That's a good answer.
A really good answer.
And when you
not saying that I don't enjoy all types of feedback. I do.
Of course. And then, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're going.
No, really, go ahead.
No.
I was going to ask a question about advice, so you should go ahead.
Okay. So on the flip side of that feedback, when you are faced with feedback that you're not necessarily expecting or that may not be what you wanted to hear, how do you overcome that and what do you do with that feedback?
To be honest, I kind of find it funny. There was this one comment on my Instagram post that are like, is this a girl or a guy? And then they were like, I guarantee you all this is a guy. And I'm like, that reminds me of those Lady Gaga interviews where she would be like, she would answer those she would answer in such funny ways to those questions. I won't mention them here because for reasons that, if you want to go see her interviews, you can go watch them. But I always just find them funny. There was one that I saw in my music video for Be With Me that was like, yes, went at a father's mansion with this one because my parents helped me finance with my music career.
Sure.
And I just found that they put it like in all caps with a little shouting emoji. And I found that kind of funny. I honestly just see this from their perspective, and I honestly just find it hilarious.
That's probably a good angle because otherwise some of those things could drive you crazy, and it shouldn't.
Fair.
It doesn't
I mean,
have to.
I did grow up being bullied, so I do know how to deal with sort of insults and stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like treating them as humor sounds like a pretty solid way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's more enjoyable for you too. It's more enjoyable for you as the artist. Trust me.
And we all know that one more comment helps the algorithm, so it all helps you in the end, right?
Exactly.
So my question was, when you have somebody who is interested in getting involved in music, or even whether it's in your genre or not, what is some advice you would give them?
I would say if you really think and even if the feedback you have isn't all positive, but if you have a dream and the talent to back it up, there's nothing stopping you. In my opinion. I think that if someone really wants to make it, then nothing should stop them. But also be aware that there are a lot of tough obstacles in this industry and educate yourself on them before going head over heels into this industry, because you can be broken. I've been let down more than enough times from people in the industry, results from the industry, lots of things. And I think someone really has to have the wherewithal and the judgment and the determination to make it through that. But if you can make it through all of that, then there should be nothing stopping you.
That's really solid advice. Like,
It is.
very well said.
Thank you.
Olivia, my last question here before we wrap up is a question I'd like to ask every single guest, and that is, you are having lunch with somebody, and they can be alive or dead. Who is sitting on the other side of that table from you?
Oof. That's such a hard question. Honestly, I'd probably say my parents.
Aww.
Because they have backed me through everything. And if I had to choose, I would probably choose them.
That's a great answer.
Very nice. Yeah.
Very nice. Olivia, I love your perspective. The advice that you gave about educating yourself, I think educating yourself about the music industry comes from a very personal place, but it also speaks to how grounded you are in this industry. And I really appreciate your perspective on this. And the fact that you're bringing something unique to Western audiences that they may not necessarily have experienced. So I really have enjoyed your time with us here on the show tonight.
Thank you. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I want to make sure that our listening audience can also stay in touch with you and your music career. Your Instagram, I want to give you a shout out for that. That is Olivia A. Millin with an extra N at the end. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You also have a website. We've got that as oliviamillin.com.
I'm
Yes.
sorry to everyone in the chat. I totally messed up spelling that. It's oliviamillin.com. There we go. I fixed it.
Awesome. Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
And then you said that you have a second album coming out. Do you know about
Yes.
when that will be released?
A few months at least.
Okay.
Got to get it all recorded.
We won't press you too much about it. But in all seriousness, please go follow Olivia. I think one of my favorite songs is Enough or Success, to be honest. Those are two of my favorites from this album, but please go check out the rest of her album. It is really, really catchy. And as the young people say, there are lots of bops in there. So please go check them out.
Lots of bops.
Lots of bops. But thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast tonight. As we close this episode out, this episode, along with more conversations and behind the scenes content, can be found on our Patreon. Search for us under The Mod Rom, or you can check out our website at themodrom.com for more info and other episodes. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.